Hello and welcome to the Johnversations Podcast. As always, I am your host, John Connor, and you are tuned into episode number 35. My guest today, I'm very excited. She is a singer-songwriter, actor, artist, writer, content creator, comedian, and more. She's currently crowdfunding the project Psychic School, which she writes and stars in, and her new single, Locked Up, is available to stream now. Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, listen in your cars, on your computers, headphones, please welcome Miss Jordana Lilly. Jordana, how are you? Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much for having me, John. That was an awesome intro. I want that to narrate my life.
I'll send it to you. Just play it on a loop.
Man, hell yeah.
So I've got a lot of stuff that I want to talk to you about. I first found you, I came across your Instagram profile and started looking at your music, and then you have all these videos, you do these characters. I know you teach yoga and stuff like that, so then you have a your yoga teacher character. I thought it was so funny, and then I listened to your music, and it's so many different types of sounds. I could tell. I play guitar and write songs. I grew up playing in bands and stuff like that. So when I was listening, it reminded me very much of myself, where it seemed like you may have learned through Disney movies. Because when I was younger, I was always singing those Disney songs and stuff like that, the range and things like that. So I don't know. I think I just connected to it in a weird way. But
oh, cool.
But yeah, really big fan and super, super happy that you're here. And I just want to kind of start by, from what I understand, you grew up in Silicon Valley, or were born in Silicon Valley. When did you kind of realize that you had that creative bug? When did you, kind of find that you liked entertaining people?
Oh, great question. I definitely always knew, even when I said I wanted to be an interior designer or whatever in elementary school, I would watch That's So Raven and secretly do monologues for my cat and sing in the shower and visualize and be like, no one knows, but I'm going to be a pop star and I'm going to be on Disney Channel. But it doesn't work like that. If no one ever knows, then nothing ever happens. So yeah, I was a closeted, creative for a while. And then, got to unleash some of that in childhood theater camp every summer in a backyard. It was just a neighborhood theater camp where you rock, paper, scissors for the lead, very cute, very wholesome, mostly eating Otter Pops and playing Zip Zap Zop, but it gave me life. And then I was like, let me, move to LA and be an actress. But my mom was like, okay, let's hold your horses. Let's just wait till high school. You could try out for the school play. So I waited till high school and did that. And then I went to school for theater performance at Chapman University. And then moved to LA 4 years ago to kind of do the dang thing.
That's awesome. And with you just being in LA 4 years, it's pretty impressive, some of the things that you have under your belt. There's not a lot of people that I feel can kind of dip their toes in as many things as you do and do them well. I've watched clips of your stand-up. Again, your music, not only are they good songs, but it's well produced and catchy. And I actually watched Crossing Guard today, which I thought was super funny. We'll put a link up. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but kind of before we get into that. So you've been in LA for 4 years, moving from Silicon Valley. Now you're, an LA transplant. What is that first year like for you? Because I can imagine you're just all right, I'm going to do this. And then you're there and you're like, well, how the hell do I do this? So talk to me a little bit about that.
Oh my God. Where are you right now? First of all,
I am right outside of Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay. Right. That's what I thought. But yeah, anyway, totally. I feel all artists kind of feel this, or, musicians, actors who go to school for it, totally always think, I should just speak for myself, but I definitely didn't really believe anyone when they're like, it's a 10-year game, you know, like, and it for the long haul, marathon, not a race. Like, here's all the stuff you're going to do. I was like, okay, but like, I'm going to get my serious rag like 6 months or less before graduating.
Sad card, here I come.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but okay, like during my showcase, a manager was interested in me, and it was like, whatever,
Right.
you know. So you know, first couple years were rough. I feel like, you know, no one really prepares you for, you know, they tell you like make your own stuff, like all this kind of stuff, but no one really prepares you for having to create your own sense of community, and as well as no one really prepares you for not having the opportunity to be rejected. So I feel like those two were the toughest things. You know, everyone tells you like, oh, you're gonna have to be okay with getting rejected. You're gonna go to all the auditions, and 80 auditions to one yes. And I was like, okay, great, I'm ready. It got thick skin. I'm ready for it. But then, you know, I just wasn't getting auditions. And I was like, wait, I don't understand. I'm doing everything everyone tells me and it's not working. But it's a completely non-linear career path and track, and it doesn't work like that. And I feel like no one really prepared us for not having a chance to be rejected. So yeah, the first couple years were really tough. I tried making a sketch group, you know, like tried making a couple things, but I feel like it was like 2 years in that I really just started being like, okay, I don't really like write. I took one writing class in college, which I wish I took more, but I took one actor writer workshop in college so that I could meet writers to write me into things. And then I started writing things, and I was like, okay, you know, let me get some screenwriting books and let me like do the dang thing. And it really is so empowering when you can just make things and just fail. You know, I feel like my first sketch group kind of falling apart after feeling that momentum kind of got me down a little bit because of just the whole mentality of like, well, I tried this and it's not working, but you know, I guess the first couple of years definitely taught me to like open my mind and dismantle all of the expectations that I had of how exactly it's going to work and what the specific hurdles will be.
Yeah, and you know, that's a really good point, because I don't think a lot of people think of it that way. I think a lot of people are like, you know, exactly like you said, like, y'all go on these auditions and, you know, I'm sure I'll probably get rejected, but there's got to be something if I just keep plugging. But I don't think a lot of people think about like, you've got to get your foot in the door to get in front of those people to even be rejected. So how do I start? How do I start that? And then when you talk about your sketch comedy group, yeah, like I said, I grew up playing in bands and stuff like that. So you know, be with a group of people and you like, we're getting this show and we're doing that show and people are coming to see us, and then things start to dissolve and then you got to start all over again. So
yeah.
I think it's one of those things where if you're not in that creative world or you don't have the experience with like, how am I building something, it's hard for people to kind of understand, you know, like, oh, they're my favorite band, why didn't they last forever? Or, you know, like, you're looking at people like The State or something like that from so long ago. It's these big sketch comedy groups where they're all still friends, but they don't do that. And you know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. It's a weird life to live if you're looking at it from the outside in. But I think if you're inside, you're like, I don't know any other way that I'm supposed to do this, you know?
Yeah, totally. Groups are hard, you know? I can't imagine, you know, I've never really been in a band or led that band life, but it, you know, it must be, yeah, it must be difficult, but you know, also worth it when it is. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And you know, this was in my younger days. So I always compared it to like, you have 4 girlfriends, you got the 3 other guys in the band, and then you have your actual girlfriend, and everybody is like, well, we need to do this, or we need to do that, or I want your time here, you need to be here. So it's like, it can be a juggling act. And I imagine it's the same, you know, if you've got a group of 7, 8 people for a sketch comedy group, and then all of them have their outside lives, it's got to be hard to always coordinate and have everybody on the same page.
Yeah, totally. Even I mean, writing with people, because I mean, same thing with music. It's literally the same thing. It's just creativity is such a sensitive thing, and it's so subjective. And once you find those people who you're like usually on the same page with, that's the opportunity to run with it. It's not just like the first people you find who say yes, who are down. It's like who speak the same language as you, and it can take some time to find that.
Yeah, it's got
comedy and music. Yeah,
it's definitely got to be cohesive. It's like you've got to have that kind of, all the great bands are, I think that's the same thing, the same reason that like the Groundlings and things like that are still exist, because it's like a very specific type of person who can get in there and kind of live it. Yeah, I did want to ask, like, when did you start doing sketches? Because you've got the I'm one of the ones that I was falling out of my chair laughing, but there's the one that you did where your boyfriend comes home and you're you're having an affair with Santa Claus, and so like was that something, as I guess, like what I'm asking is, was that something that was kind of born out of necessity from like look, I'm not getting the auditions, like I need to like be writing and doing these things, or was it how did you get into it?
Yeah, totally. Oh my God, that's a good question. I'm like trying to remember. I made a few sketches with that sketch group, and that was really fun. And that was like just a couple months after moving to LA. And then I made a few more, but a while later. And yeah, I guess just went through like blips of like, oh, let's just like I wrote this thing, like finding who would be down to shoot it. But yeah, I feel like once I definitely started just making more on my own, one of my collaborators, Megan, she and I like used to make like 3 a week, just shot on our iPhones, but we probably have like 50 or so sketches together. But that was that was around 3 years ago. Okay. And we just like kind of started pumping them out, and then I feel like more people just saw like, oh, you make sketches, and it was easier to kind of be a person who makes sketches if I just started making sketches. And then just like definitely worked that muscle, because it's a very specific type of writing. So yeah, and just meeting collaborators that like we had fun shooting one sketch, so let's shoot another sketch. So yeah, I feel like maybe 3 years ago was when it started, when I started making like iPhone sketches, and then maybe like 2 years ago started amping up the like, legitimately made ones.
Yeah. Is she the one? You have a sketch where it is 2 women that are coming back from a yoga class and they're speaking to each other, but like without the veil of like the social pleasantries. It's just
that one's super fun, but that's my friend Melanie. Yeah.
Okay. Shout out Melanie. That one I thought was super, super funny too. Because I think we all know people in our lives like that are like, oh, I'll send you an email 6 months from now and ask how you're doing. But really, I just want this. And then your response of that, I'll pretend I never got that email.
Sounds great. Yeah.
It was the best. It was so funny.
Thank you.
Well, and I know that you act, you write, you do stand up, you do all these creative things as far as, film and sketches and doing these shorts and things like that. But then in addition, you've also put out like 3 full-length records, and then like a like the latest single, Locked Up, right? So I mean, like you've got like as someone who's put out records, like you've got a discography under your belt. So when did you, well, let me ask you this. which one of those do you find more fulfilling, or do you find that they fulfill different things?
Yeah, I can't choose between my babies. That's why it's just gonna take longer. But I just can't choose. Like, so many people have told me I need to choose, or else I won't succeed in any of them. But I've tried even prioritizing for like 1 week. I've tried prioritizing like, okay, I'm just doing music this week and I can't. Like, it feels wrong. It feels like I'm blocking creative energy that might want to come through. And yeah, so I mean, like, I sometimes things will take priority. Like when I was prepping for my album release party, like it was a lot of work because I was producing the event, and it was so much work that, you know, I didn't make any sketches for a couple weeks, or I put my writing projects on hold. And sometimes there will be different phases where some things will need more of my energy, but just, you know, overall, I just can't choose. That's like it's a problem. So I don't, you know?
Oh no, for sure. Yeah, I'm similar, but I think mine is more of just a touch of the ADD, where I'm like, okay, I think I need to focus on this, but then it's like there's something else that I want to dabble in. So it's like I'll do that and then I'll come back to this.
Oh, totally.
I can't tell you how many times like I've started writing lyrics to a song and then like come up with a riff why I was doing that and be like, all right, well, let me put that down. I'm going to work on this and then I'll come back to that. So it's, I don't know, maybe it's just the way creative people's brains are wired, but it's hard to like zero in and be like, at least for me, this is like the one thing that I'm going to focus on, because you have so many ideas going through your head at once.
Right. And totally. I took this positive psychology course during quarantine, and they touched on this, but I've definitely been meaning to look more to delve further into this. But apparently creative minds or creative people are much more prone to being ADD, ADHD, and having depression and anxiety. And I think just those like, you know, scattered minds, are kind of artists are kind of nuts, you know. So but it's
for sure. I mean, we're not cutting our ears off or anything and mailing to like exes or anything.
Right.
Still in your own little way. And I think you're right. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, I never thought I had anxiety or depression until quarantine or until COVID in general. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I've got both of those things. So I wanted to ask that, you know, with what you do, because you cover such a wide range of artistic endeavors, how does Instagram and so I guess Instagram specifically, like, how does that help you, or how has it helped you? Because, you know, when you look at your channel, like you see, or I'm sorry, not your channel, but when you look at your Instagram feed, like you see sketches, but then you see, you know, clips from your music or clips from a short, or, you know, with Psychic School coming out, like I can use this platform, and it seems, looking at your page and kind of watching your work, that people are connecting to it, and you know, you've got people behind it. So what has the benefit been for you as far as, you know, using that to kind of get those ideas out there?
Yeah, totally. I feel like I've totally redefined my relationship with Instagram during this time specifically. It used to be kind of a source of anxiety in terms of like what I've heard people say, and people saying like, okay, yeah, but you need to be one thing because branding and people are going to be confused. Like I used to have a separate Instagram for music, and I also have a separate Instagram for my like doodles, like art, graphic little design. And I used to have a separate Instagram for like a fashion blog, you know, and that compartmentalizing used to really stress me out. But I feel like as soon as I kind of just said like, F it, like I ultimately I want to be known for all these things. So like, why should I try to I know it's like smart to brand yourself very specifically, and then you can bring in more, but I just didn't want to do that. It's not a case of like, oh, someone offered you a role where you're typecast and then you can branch out. It's like, it's your social media, it's your choice. It's like, you might as well take ownership and do whatever you want to do, and it's your platform. And I feel like as soon as I kind of embraced that, and I was like, oh wait, I don't need to stress out about like, when do I post a sketch. And I did used to get as soon as I started bringing in music, I used to get some messages saying like, wait, I'm confused. What kind of Instagram is this? But like, who cares? It's like,
it's Instagram.
Who cares? Literally. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's a really good representation too, because, like, especially, and like, I couldn't live in LA. Like, I'm not like a giant man, but I am too big to live in LA. I'd be like, I'm normal where I live now. If I lived in LA, they'd be like morbidly obese. People be moving.
No.
Oh yes, for sure. I'd be one of those guys that they'd either be like, you need to lose 100 pounds or you need to gain like 75 or you're not going to work at all. So
only if you're like a model.
Right. But, I think with, we've had several comedians and actors on the show, and what it seems like is when you're in that world, it's so easy to become typecast as one thing, or you get this role, or, oh, that's Jordana, that's just what she plays, where it really feels like, humans are multifaceted. There's, I've got this part of me and I've got that. That's what makes nobody is just one thing. And I think it's really cool that when you look at your Instagram, you can be like, oh, this person is putting all of their creativity on display,
Yeah.
And also, I don't think people realize it's like, if you work on at least for me, like, we would work on a song for like 3 months or an album for like a year, and then you record it and you spend all this time and you've invested in it, and then you put it out and you're like, well, fuck, I hope people like it. You know what I mean? Or like, I just wasted this year. Where, I imagine doing a sketch, or, like with Psychic School, which I want to talk about, like, that's a baby that you're bringing into the world and being like, here you go, I've delivered it. So, I feel like it's kind of brave to say like, this is everything that I'm into. Here you go. Like, take it.
Yeah. I'm just gonna open the blinds a little bit.
Sure, no problem.
Because I feel like it's getting really dark. Okay. But
It was getting very like witness protection.
I know, like, yeah, totally. And wow, I so feel you on the music thing. That switch from, oh, it's my baby and it's been a labor of love and I just poured my heart out, and now I have to jump to the producer side and put on the marketing hat and check the analytics and be worried, and because of course, like, we want to be smart about it and continue to level up and continue to try to increase our outreach. But yeah, I feel like that specifically was so drastic when I put out my album. It like felt, it's so incredibly full. Like the album release party, just the response felt so positive, and the entire concept of the album was small capital, small wins. Like, at least I have this and it's all my own, and that's enough, which was just felt so right and so full and so wholesome. But then dealing with the aftermath of like, okay, no one's responded, all the blog outreach, oh wow, like the analytics, like the the slope is like really going down, it's only this many numbers, and all these things on YouTube say that that's really bad, and that it's the dreaded less than 1,000. It's just so easy to let that kind of eat away at the purity of what you made. And I feel like that's definitely been the hardest thing, about releasing things, is like maintaining the pride and maintaining the like purity of the intention, without letting the marketing, outreach, producer hat like be mean to the art, itself.
No, definitely. And I agree with you 195%. I mean, 200% on the analytics, because with the, with this, I mean, we're a podcast, but it's
Yeah.
like you put out an episode and then you see like, boom, okay, a bunch of people love this episode. And then you put out the next episode and you're like, a quarter of the people listen to that episode, and then in your head, you're like, okay, well, what was it about this one? And how do I apply that? And I don't know about you, but for me, it just got to a point where I was like, I'm not thinking about this. Like, I want to have people on that I think are interesting, that I think would be fun to talk to. And I think sometimes people forget too, like, especially when you're doing that, because don't get me wrong, there is definitely a special feeling when you're the person is like with music, you write the songs, you record the album, you put it out on your own, you throw the release party is packed, you see that like you're selling, people are listening. There's a definite reward to that, I think, as the artist, where you're like, oh, I can do this all by myself.
Yeah.
And then, but there's also that like, oh, am I doing it the right way? Or like, what do I need to do next? Where, it feels like at some point you just have to be like, you know what, I'm just going to keep doing what I love and put it out there. And then sometimes it takes people time to find things. You know what I mean?
Right.
Do you know who the Plain White Tees are? They had that song, Hey There, Delilah. The band I was in, we played with them in this little theater in Chicago, probably 3 years before that song hit the radio. And they were playing it then. Wow. So it's just one of those things where that's kind of always stuck with me, where it's like that song was a hit. It just took 3 years for people to realize that it was a hit, So,
I love that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's, I don't know. I think the attitude that you have as far as like just following where the passion takes you is, I don't know, if I was going to give advice to anybody, and not that anybody would be like, John, what's your advice? But I'd be like, that's it. Like, just find something that you love and go full steam. And even if it's like 7 different things,
Right. Yeah. I think we so often, as productive artists with drive, I think it does come from a place of believing in yourself. And because of that, you want to work hard and do everything right and do everything you possibly can in your power to, maximize outreach and do absolutely everything you can. But the other side of that is, at a certain point, it's just trying to control what you can't control, which at a certain point you are doing everything you can, and obsessing over why your analytics aren't where you want them to be it's actually hindering your art and the creative like vessel, and because it's kind of like scarcity and fear, and like coming from a place that's the exact opposite of where the art comes from, which is just this place of like, oh, there's plenty of it,
Right. Well, and one thing I did want to ask, I want to ask you this first, while we're still kind of in the realm of Instagram, because your grandmother is featured in several of your Instagram videos since it seems like since everyone was on lockdown and stuff like that. And I personally feel she could be in like the Groundlings or Upright Citizens Brigade. She is so deadpan. And I also relate to her. There's the video you did where she opened up the king cone, like the drumstick, and it was vanilla and not chocolate. And I fucking hate a vanilla drumstick. I want that chocolate ice cream in the middle. She just does like such a good job. I don't even know if she realizes that she's doing it, but she does such a good job of just like playing the straight man to you.
Oh, that's so funny.
Did you have to talk her into that, or like was she just gung ho about it? Like, I'm not doing anything else, or?
Typically what it is, I mean, there's that one sketch that I made her do with me, and I like gave her lines, and it was the like that people aren't social distancing, and then
Yep.
we like see her
walking. I know
which
one. Yeah, she's strolling out like a gangster, and then she's like, "I'm out of here."
So that one was scripted, but aside from that, there are just so many priceless moments, and I know I'm gonna write a feature or something about it someday, because there's just it's just too good, you know, the moments that the stories that I've gathered from living here. Um but yeah, typically what it is she'll just like we'll just have a funny interaction and she'll say something and then I'll be like, wait, can you say it again? And then I'll start recording and then she'll just keep talking. And usually it's like way funnier before, you know, so I'm glad that it still comes across. But yeah, I just wish I could record everything.
Yeah, well, it's funny because she makes me laugh the same way that my grandmother, she's she's a wonderful woman, but she like coached football and like delivered news. Like she was a teacher. So she would like get up in the morning and deliver papers before she went and taught. She was just, if you really want money, get up at 3 a.m. And I'm like, I really want money, but that's early as hell, you know? So,
yeah.
But, right. That's still night. But my wife's grandmother is like the complete opposite. She's like this, she has a tendency to be this like foul mouth, like old Italian lady. And it's the same thing where she'll say something and my wife will be like, say it again, get the phone out. And so I don't know. It's just, and it's cool. It's cool too with you being as young as you are to then be able to incorporate like a family member who's, so much older, but still I think it just speaks really well to the relationship that you guys have.
Aww.
There's not a lot of family members I think that would be like, yeah, sure. Put me on. How many followers do you have? Yeah. Put me all over the internet. You know what I mean? So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, she's the best ever. I'm telling, it's gonna be something, a sitcom, a feature. It's gonna happen. I'm not gonna rush it, but it's just gold, you know.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to ask, talking about your music, because Locked Up is it's very pop sensical, but there is a lot of like funk elements, and it's really cool. Like there's like the funk bridge, and I don't really know how to explain it perfectly, but it's one of those things where it's definitely catchy, but it's you can tell that there's a lot of different influences. So I listened to that, and then I went back and started listening, to some of the older stuff, and it definitely sounds like your sound has kind of evolved. I mean, there's some more stripped down stuff in the beginning, and then it kind of becomes more produced and different elements being mixed in. And was that a natural growth? Was that something that you said like, hey, on this next record, I'm going to do something completely different? Like, talk to me a little bit about what that was like.
Yeah, sure. I think it's totally song dependent, and it just so happens that like a lot of the songs from my album or from the singles before were just written earlier. And yeah, I definitely think that my music has evolved a lot. I think all musicians kind of evolve as their ear evolves and as they listen to different things and their taste evolves. I think like at the very beginning, it was more stripped down because musical theater was like my kind of upbringing. And I feel like it had a lot of those influences. And then my listening ear has completely evolved. And I fell in love with different artists, Aaron Allen Kane, Jacob Collier, James Blake, just finding new influences and just evolving because of that. And yeah, this Locked Up was with a different producer as well. And yeah, I have another single coming out with him that's also very different. It's kind of more neo soul, and it has like it's a collaboration with my friend who's an incredible rapper. And so, yeah, I'm super excited about that. But yeah, I think just trying to approach each song based on what it needs and what it wants and what I hear, and then whatever the producer hears, and kind of, yeah, just creating with them and seeing what serves it best.
Yeah. And it's super cool that you have someone that you can partner with. Like for our show, my friend Mat Halliday out of Michigan, he is our post audio engineer. So people have heard me talk about him before, but we record the show. I send it to him. He makes it squeaky, shiny, clean, but he also did he did some of the records that I did when I was in the bands and playing and stuff like that. And I remember one of the projects I worked on him with, he's like, you know what this song needs? This song needs trumpet. And he's like, and I play trumpet, so I'll do it. And I was like, I don't know like how that's going to sound, but like, sure, because that's the cool thing about recording is like, if you don't like it, just be like, all right, bye, So he put it in and I was like, oh my God, yeah, that is exactly what that song. And it became one of my like favorite songs on the record because I was just like, oh, like I would have never ever thought to add that, So being able to have someone who not only supports your vision but wants to partner with you to say like, how can we make it the best that it can be? I think is something special if you can find the right person to do that with, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. Yeah, both of the producers that I collaborate with are just incredible. And another thing that I totally forgot is I feel like lifestyle also completely affects musical style. I started singing live jazz all the time and going to live jazz all the time. And I've got these horn friends, saxophone player and a trumpet player, and I used to, when the world was open, like play with them all the time, like go to all their shows and everything. And now I hear horns and everything, and I bring John in for trumpets whenever I hear trumpets. And so, yeah, I feel like that completely influences it as well, what you're hearing when you're listening to music and what you're hearing, when you go see live music. So I guess that's not too different, but.
No, well, I mean, I think it's cool though too, because again, you're kind of taking what would Bruce Springsteen's songs be without his life experiences? You know what I mean? Like if he, didn't work on the docks, or, you know what I mean? Like if he didn't have the life that he had, would his songs be what they are? You know what I mean? And I feel like that's super important. Like it's really easy to sit down and just, it's easier to write a song than I think people realize. It's hard to write something honest. It's hard to write something about yourself, Right. So if you can bring that in and I don't know, maybe that's what makes your music sound so genuine, is it, if it's coming from a place of like where you're growing and using experiences that have happened to you. So
yeah, totally.
Well, I want to talk about psychic school. We got a little bit of time left, but before we talk about that, I know you recently just stopped working at Disney. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how long did you do that?
It'll be 6 years in November, and my official last date is December. So I'll hit that 6-year mark. I got it as a side job during college because it was 5 minutes from Chapman. So, a weekend job, and of course, thought that I was going to book a series reg. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm not going to have any survival jobs,
Right.
And I took a little year break, bartended, did all these jobs, but it was just so fun. And I just kept coming back. So, yeah.
So, I've got a 2-year-old, and there are some days where just the 1 2-year-old is like, okay, not having another kid. Like I need a break. And it's not the same, but I worked at Chuck E. Cheese when I was in high school, and I had to be in the mouse costume. And
oh my God.
Oh no, it was awful. It was so bad. But and I'm someone, I love kids in general. I like being around kids. I have fun. I'd always been the fun uncle and stuff like that before I was a dad. But how can you keep your sanity is my question. Like working at that job for so long there must be some days where you're just I can't talk to another kid unless, and maybe I'm way off base, but I was thinking about it and I was like, I don't know if I can do that, man.
Man. It's so much easier than babysitting, so much easier than tutoring, so much easier than teaching piano, so much easier than teaching Hebrew school. And I've done all 4 things with kids. So yeah, I've had my share working with kids, and it's so much easier being the good guy than the bad guy. So much easier seeing them for 5 minutes to 30 minutes than for the entire night and making them do their homework and putting them to bed and making them practice their piano, So, out of all the kid jobs, it was by far the breeziest in terms of kids,
Yeah, I guess I haven't thought about it that way, but like if you are the character, then everyone's like super excited to see you. It's not like they're like, oh, Elsa's here, but they're like, oh my God. And you see them, and then it's like the next group of kids. Maybe I could do that. I don't know. Maybe I could do that if they're all super excited. When I worked at Chuck E. Cheese, some kid came up to me and was like, "Guess what we learned in school today? Self-defense." And he just hauled off and hit me in the stomach as hard as he could.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the sculpted characters experience that, kids.
Really?
Because, when they don't see a human face, like I get it. It's just like, oh, I don't get it. It's still like morbid and horrible. Right. But yeah. I feel like Chuck E. Cheese was probably way harder.
Oh my gosh, so bad. But it also isn't as upscale as Disney. I'm sure, there's definitely a higher class of people that are going to Disney on a regular basis, as opposed to being like, I'm taking my kid to Chuck E. Cheese for the 4th time this week. So.
I don't know.
Well, I did want to talk to you about psychic school, right? That's outside of music, it seems like that's really your baby right now. And so from what I understand, not only did you write it, but you're starring in it. And you guys are currently crowdfunding and trying to get the funds together to put the show out. So for people who may not be familiar, kind of walk us through a little bit. What is the show about and how can people support it?
Sure. Well, Psychic School is essentially about a top secret night school for psychics, except instead of your classic Hogwarts where it's this grandiose castle, it's top secret, right? So they have to meet at night in this abandoned high school. They sometimes have to change locations. It looks super sketchy, and they can't tell anyone about it. So it's kind of like Sabrina meets Community. It's an ensemble comedy of just like eccentric characters, and it follows this protagonist Blanche as she's essentially finding out what her purpose is. She doesn't really fit in anywhere, and now she finally fits in somewhere, but we're gonna find, in coming episodes that she's not really fitting in there either. But yeah, I'm super excited about it. It's a 30-minute comedy, scripted comedy, and we're crowdfunding to shoot the pilot episode. And so essentially we had a couple of options. We have the whole pitch deck. We have the 2-pager. We have the script that I've been working on for 1.5 years. We've been developing for a year. And we kind of just decided we really wanted to shoot it. So whether this gets bought, whether we get to make all of them, I really wanted to play Blanche. And if it gets picked up, I may or may not play Blanche. Maybe it'll be an A-lister, who knows? But I at least want to play it now, and we at least want to take this in our own creative hands and be able to make this. So yeah, we are halfway funded. We have, I think, 13 days left of our campaign. So we're about halfway. So we're on track right now. And yeah, the link's in my bio on Instagram if anyone would want to support. We're just so excited to be able to create jobs for artists. There are so many roles to fill here, and we get to be in charge of facilitating this safe, inclusive, super creative environment. And I've just been so loving creating and facilitating set environments over the past few years, because just handpicking the people that are so positive and great to work with, and it always results in an amazing experience for all, where the content is just so much better, I think, because everyone feels safe and comfortable to be silly and to mess up. So yeah, I'm super excited about it. If anyone wants to check it out, we have a teaser up, and we have some awesome incentives, including like, tarot readings, astrology readings, really fun stuff. So yeah, check it out, share it around. If you have any millionaire friends, definitely hit them up and make them contribute.
Yeah, I will. Also, when we put up the show in the show notes, I'll link up the Instagram page so people can go and check it out and see the trailer and stuff like that. Because it is, I don't know, man. It's really cool, and especially in an era now where there's so many, reboots, and like you're like, oh, I think this is a new show, but I've seen this format before. It's really cool to kind of see something that has an original take and something that hasn't been done before, and especially when it's being done by people who are doing it themselves. You know what I mean? Because it's really cool to be able to say like, hey, not only am I having a great time at this, but I wrote something, I brought something in this world that allows other people to show off their skill set, and they can thrive and they can have fun with it. And I don't know, I just think it's really cool. And I mean, it's a great time to do it right around Halloween. Everybody's feeling spooky. Just don't buy a bag of candy. Throw whatever you can and help with the crowdfunding.
No one's going trick-or-treating, so,
right.
You save that $10.
Well, and let me ask you this, like, is there something, we had a friend of the show on her, Chase O'Donnell. She is an actor out of LA as well. And, she was talking about a big thing for her with playing characters is she kind of gets to step out of herself. And as a character, she was saying you can kind of do things that like you would be afraid to, you could say and do things that you'd be afraid to say and do if it was like, this is me. So with this pilot and having the show, I mean, is that giving you the opportunity to do that? Like, are you kind of able to, are you able to like kind of explore and throw yourself in and make it big, or, are you having fun with it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I can't wait to play her. I love Blanche. She's feisty, and I'm really not too feisty, but now that you bring it up, I'm definitely getting more feisty. So, yeah, she's so awesome. She's like eccentric and sometimes like too dry and honest. So she like has a hard time making friends, but like I love her so much, and she has so much pride, but she has so many redeemable qualities, and like finding her vulnerability and why she like has the kind of blocks and the walls that she has just been such a joy. And yeah, and I definitely think that there's something really empowering about stepping into someone who would say things that you would never say. And like, she's not afraid to be fully herself, even if it gets her in trouble. And like, I'm very polite and and sometimes to a fault, but I'm learning, to stand up for myself and like all these empowering things. And maybe it's because of Blanche, who knows?
Yeah, kindred spirit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? Life imitating art, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, totally.
Well, I wanted to say thank you so much for coming on and hanging out and talking about your projects. Like I said, I really get a kick out of being able to sit down. I'll say it like this: people like you are the reason that I started the show. To be able to sit down with creatives and people with big ideas and big visions. And I definitely think that you encapsulate that very, very well. And so I just want to say thank you for taking the time. I know, with psychic school and then quarantine, if you're making time for something, I'm sure it's like, I've got to dedicate this time to this project. So I appreciate you taking the time out and hanging out. And we'll link up your Instagram. We're gonna put up the Spotify account so that people can go and check out Locked Up, and there's a video coming out for that soon, I heard.
Yes.
When can people expect the video?
I'm gonna guess the first week of November. I've been trying to think about like when to strategize, but I think I'm gonna shoot for the first week of November. So psychic school is kind of that chapter of crowdfunding has closed. So yeah, soon.
Awesome. Well, super looking forward to it. Guys, if you're listening, please go to Spotify, check out the single, head over to Instagram, click the link. If you're watching on YouTube, it's right below us. If you're listening on your phone, go into the show notes, blue link, click it. It's great. Look, quarantine is crazy time, but if you are a person who is fortunate enough where you can afford a couple dollars or maybe a lot of dollars, help support an artist and help support dreams and projects being born out of love. But will you stick around for a minute after we wrap up?
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. Guys, that's episode 35. Went by in a flash, but thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you so much to Jordana Lilly for hanging out, and we will see you guys next week for episode 36. See you later.